For you tonight, we'll have Steve Deace, Pat Gray, and Glenn Beck stopping in to give us their take. Now, to watch, you'll need to head over to the Stu Does America YouTube channel. Just go to my YouTube, search for Stu. I'll be the first channel that you see there. Subscribe to it, do all the things. And if you want access to some great shows and you think it's important to support conservative media right now, go to BlazeTV.com/Stu. Use the promo code Stu because that's how they know you like this stupid show, and you'll save $10. We're less than an hour away. Let's do the first presidential debate. Welcome to Blaze TV's live coverage of the first presidential debate. We'll have Glenn Beck, Steve Deace, Pat Gray, and more tonight as we get you ready for the first debate between President Donald Trump and star of Weekend at Bernie's 3, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Let's set the stage for what you're going to see tonight. We are in the leadoff spot here with the debate preview until 9 p.m. Eastern. At that point, we'll all watch the debate together. Again, if you're watching on Blaze TV's YouTube channel, be sure to head over to the Stu Does America page and subscribe there as well for the watch party. We're going to be watching it live. We'll be coming to you with a little commentary, some live scoring like we're Russian judges at the Olympics. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then, after the debate, we will have an hour of post-debate coverage. It's going to be quite a night, and the stakes could not be higher. This has been the strangest year of all of our lives. And unlike every other election I can remember, people just haven't been in election mode. We've all had other things to worry about, from a global pandemic to economic collapse to peaceful protests that just happened to end in every auto parts store in the area burning to the ground. So it's hard to know what role historical precedent has to play in any of this. I mean, is this just such an outlier of a year that none of it matters? The media narrative of the race is simple. Joe Biden is ahead. He's been ahead the whole time, and it isn't that close. Here's what the polls have looked like since the start of the race. The dark blue line is Biden's lead over Trump, a remarkably stable lead, sitting at 7.3 points today. The lighter blue line is the Trump-Clinton race from 2016. What you see in 2016 is that the polls bounced up and down wildly with big events like the convention and the Access Hollywood tape. But what the chart pretty clearly shows is while this race has been much different than 2016, we enter the first debate at right about the same position. The question is, can Trump do it all over again? If he can, he will be pulling off one of the most amazing political achievements in modern history. Think about what he's up against. He started with a very close election in which he lost the popular vote, and this time it's going to be harder. If the exact same demographics vote the exact same way that they did in 2016, Trump would lose based on changes in the population. He's faced a sustained barrage of opposition from the media that has never been seen before. He's faced constant investigation and assault from the left. He's had the worst global pandemic in a century to deal with, the economic collapse that came after, and the racial riots that have followed that. And all of that has taken its toll. Trump's approval rating has been historically stable, no big swings, just settling in the low to mid-40s for his entire presidency. Will he win? Well, he currently sits at an average of 43.7%. Going back to Dwight Eisenhower, this places him behind every single president that won re-election. But it also places him ahead of every single president who lost their re-election bid. One thing's for sure, no matter what happens tonight, the media is going to tell you that Donald Trump lost. Think back to the 2016 cycle for a second. What do you remember about the three debates with Trump and Clinton? I kind of remember Clinton doing pretty well in one of them, Trump doing pretty well in another, and I didn't really remember much about the last one. The polling showed something totally different. We went through and averaged all the post-debate polls that asked who won this debate, and here's what it showed. In the first debate, 55% thought Clinton won, and only 26% thought it was Trump, a 29-point margin for Clinton. In the second debate, that's the one I remember Trump doing pretty well in. Polling showed that Clinton won 50-34, a 16-point margin. And in the third debate, it was Clinton 50-31, a 19-point margin. So is this make or break for Trump tonight? Well, I mean, he supposedly lost all three debates last time, and I don't know if you've noticed this, seems to be president of the United States right now. Tonight is about who can exceed expectations. Can Trump dominate this debate like so many Republicans have been expecting this whole time? Can he define Biden with something that sticks? Can he get under Biden's skin? And can Joe Biden show that he's more than just the guy who isn't named Trump? Can he give voters a reason to believe that he could return the country to some feeling of normalcy? And can he get through a couple of hours without randomly talking about squirrels and guzzling Metamucil? Honestly, I have no freaking idea, but we're about to find out. I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll talk about squirrels a little bit, but is he going to do the entire debate about squirrels? Intermittent fasting is exploding in popularity as a healthy and effective weight loss strategy. If you don't know about intermittent fasting, it's one of those things where I find it to be very effective because when you do it, the scale changes every single day. You know, it's not one of these things where you cut a couple of calories out of your thing, you know, and every day you're struggling, you feel like you're not eating enough, and then at the end of the week you've lost half a pound. Whoa! Fast Blast is different. The Fast Blast smoothie has been created, uniquely formulated for intermittent fasting. They can walk you through this entire program at fastblast.com/blaze. You can get great energy, fewer cravings, and the best part is it's very simple and it tastes great to do. These smoothies are awesome. Just drink one every 2 or 3 hours, combine it with lots of liquids. It'll keep you satisfied on the fasting days, and the other times you're eating, you wind up getting used to this, and you can lose weight so fast. It's a different way of going about it. I think you might like it. We always tell people to do their own homework, of course, so go over to fastblast.com/blaze. You can learn all about intermittent fasting, and you can learn about an exact program they can set you up with. It's really great. The /blaze part, of course, is important because that's how they know you like this stupid show. So get started today with Fast Blast. For a healthier and smaller you, it's fastblast.com/blaze.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm here to tell you about my new product from MyPillow, towels that actually work. Watch this absorbency test. Here's another towel that we randomly went out and bought. Here's one of my towels with the nice design. I don't know if you can see this, but you could line a swimming pool with this. I mean, this is crazy. Get rid of it. Towels that actually work. What a concept.
I really love the towels. They're really great. They're super absorbent.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now. The new MyPillow towels are exclusively made with 100% USA combed cotton with proprietary technology and with maximum absorbency. They dry you faster and are guaranteed to work. And listen to this. Use the promo code on your screen and Mike will include a second full towel set with bath towel, hand towel, and washcloth absolutely free. That's 2 MyPillow towel sets for the price of 1 in your choice of color.
I personally guarantee they're going to be the best towels you'll ever own.
Order now.
And welcome back to Guess the Price. Okay, Johnny, tell our contestants about Eargo.
These top-of-the-line hearing aids from Eargo are straight out of the future. They're rechargeable and virtually invisible in your ears. And you don't need to visit a doctor to get them. They ship right to your door and come with lifetime remote support.
Convenient, right? Guess the price, and they're yours.
$8,000.
Too high.
$6,000.
No.
$5,000.
Too high.
$3,500?
Oh, too high. Eargos are affordable and retail for about half the cost of traditional hearing aids. Unfortunately, nobody won. Johnny, tell our contestants about their lovely parting gift.
It's a Peruvian pan flute.
Well, that's all the time we have for now. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. I heard that.
Get free remote hearing checks and consultations by our licensed hearing professionals, all from the comfort of your home. And if you're an active or retired federal employee, you can now get Eargo at no cost to you. Call or go online today. Eargo, your life to the fullest.
Who's there? It's Nutrisystem for Men, with a month of food delivered to your door. Stay home, stay safe, and trust America's #1 home delivery weight loss program to bring your favorite foods right to you.
Nutrisystem comes right to my door. I didn't have to think about what I was going to eat. This is breakfast, this is snack, this is lunch, this is dinner.
If you or someone you love is stuck at home, stressed about going out, call Nutrisystem for Men to get a month of food without leaving the house.
The food is wonderful. It's delivered right to your house. I just love the ease and the convenience of it.
With over 150 delicious choices, Nutrisystem for Men has got you covered to stock up the pantry and help you stay healthy. And shipping is free. Plus, get a week of shakes with probiotics to help support your immunity, free.
The food comes to the door. You don't have to go anywhere. Food comes right to your door.
Act now. Save 50% on a month of food delivered to your door.
Go online or call 877-708-FIT3 and save 50%.
Let the back-breaking struggle begin. The toughest job of the year is back. But this year, you can have the advantage with the amazing Cyclone Rake. The Cyclone Rake is the all-in-one property cleanup machine that turns fall cleanup into a ride in the park. It hitches to your riding mower and easily vacuums and mulches anything on the ground. In a few easy hours, you can do the work of a 5-man crew, taking your yard from this to this. And most amazing of all, when you're done, the Cyclone Rake folds up flat and hangs right on the wall. It takes no more storage space than a push mower. Backed by the best warranty in the industry and the unmatched Cyclone Rake 1-year money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose but all those leaves. Make this the year you turn autumn into your favorite season. Call today to order or to get your free information kit, or go to CycloneRake.com.
This segment is brought to you by AndrewCuomoIsAwful.com. Glenn Beck is here.
How are you?
Welcome.
Oh,
are you excited?
Nervous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm about to throw up. That may be the bulimia, but it may be tonight's debate. I am so nervous.
We both do look like we have an eating disorder.
Except it's opposite of bulimia. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We don't vomit.
Never,
we
ever.
just suck it all in.
What do you expect out of tonight, first of all?
Second best scenario.
Mm-hmm.
No, first best scenario, and so that would push this other scenario way down, would be for him just for Biden just to walk out and drool and be like,
and I don't think there's more than an 80% chance that happens.
It's frightening because I think people are expecting him to do poorly, and you shouldn't. He's been
doing this for 47 years.
Yeah, he's going to be good. He's a good debater. The second best scenario is we walk out and we go, okay, all right, no damage, maybe a little bit of questioning on Joe Biden. You know what I mean? My dream scenario is for Donald Trump to be presidential, yet still somehow or another get under Biden's skin, get him flustered. And so he can't concentrate anymore.
This is doable. Biden, the situation with Biden, where he is a little, he doesn't necessarily know. He's discombobulated. He doesn't know what's going on a lot, right? He's
my grandfather.
Yeah, and it honestly feels sad. That approach has been well documented, and I don't think it's a good strategy, but I think it's true. Right? Like, I don't think it's a good strategy for Republicans to be talking about his potential issues there. But I think it is obvious to everyone, not only conservatives, but also liberals. I mean, I think everybody sees it. But the one thing I think has been undercovered here as we go through this is his ability to just jump into rage when things like his son is mentioned, Hunter Biden, or, I mean, he does not have control of himself, and he loses control a lot. If Trump can drive him into one of those situations, that might be the way to go.
And it also might turn around for him. Remember, Hillary Clinton's infamous, what difference does it make? People died, worked long enough to get past that moment. If he stands up to Donald Trump and says, look, I am sick and tired of this, half the nation doesn't know the truth about Hunter Biden. They don't understand. They don't know what's going on. And he will look like somebody who's not afraid to stand up to a bully. Donald Trump has to be really careful not to look like a bully. And how you thread that needle, I don't know.
I don't know that Donald Trump has that ability.
I don't think so either.
But that's who he is.
Right.
He's going to knock you around.
Right. And Joe Biden, if you can get him to jump ugly early, then the gloves come off.
Yeah. I was going back and looking at Biden's past debate performances, and you look at him in 2008. Here he is against a very inexperienced Sarah Palin, and he's on stage, and he has to have the lightest touch. And he's critical of policies, but he's very measured, and he never attacks her. He's calm and he's measured. The exact opposite with Paul Ryan. Ryan, he jumps all over. He interrupts him constantly. He's a total jerk in that debate, a total jerk. But it's enough to work because Ryan can never get a word out. He is a bit of a strategist in these situations.
He will find the rhythm to go against Trump, but nobody has yet.
Yeah,
but he will try to find that rhythm to go against Trump. But you know, Trump won't look like a politician. And Biden will. If Biden has these pat answers of, you know, just sounding like a politician on all stuff, I think that will be a turnoff to a lot of people.
Why is this so important? For someone who's tuning in now for the first time, a lot of people are just getting into election mode right now.
This is the biggest choice we have had for direction since Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, and it dwarfs that.
Really?
I mean, that we knew that it was America sucks and is over. That attitude against it's morning in America, and we're going to fight the Soviet Union. That was the baby romper room nursery school version of what we have here, because they, for the first time, have said, we are Marxists. We're Marxists. We're proud of it. They are in the streets rioting, and people like Joe Biden refuse to go hard against them. It'd be interesting to see what he has to say about Marxism, what he has to say about riots and the police and all of that. And then you have somebody who's saying, look, I don't want any of that. We love the Constitution. We love America. We love free market. You know, America's good. For the first time in my lifetime, and maybe in the country's lifetime, we have a clear choice. The American system, a new system. They haven't had that choice since 1861.
What about the person who says, look, I see Joe Biden. I've known him forever. He's been around forever. He's a Democrat. I might not love his policies, but the bottom line is he's a normal politician. He's no radical.
Show me the Democratic Party. Show me the non-radical Democratic Party that doesn't want to silence voices, that doesn't want to defund the police. Show me those people, because only until the poll numbers went down did they start saying, hey, these riots. Only after the poll numbers, not after the destruction.
Yeah.
After the poll numbers started to soften. The Democratic Party, as the average person has known it my entire life, is over. It's over. It still had some breath in it during the Obama administration because it was the Clinton Democratic Party, which is not the party of my grandfather, but it still was more, we don't hate America. That's all gone. That's all gone. These people are about white people suck. The system is racist. All of American history is being erased, and we're cool with it. We've got a new reset. We're going to change the economy. We're not going to be a capitalist system. That's not hyperbole. That's from the people that are in the in the Biden administration. You know, the people that he's surrounding himself with right now are those people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear a lot of people say Biden is, you know, he's a figurehead. He got through the primaries. He's limping to the finish line. He's going to be 6 months into this, and Kamala Harris is going to be the president. She's the brains behind the operation. But is it Kamala Harris? I mean, it's even further than Kamala Harris.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not Kamala. Do you remember, Stu, when they first came out with the stimulus, TARP or whatever it was, that first bill of Obama, and it was like 3,000 pages. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we were standing in the kitchen of our studios in New York City, and it was this high.
It was printed, yeah.
And I remember going through it, and I think you were in there, and I said, who wrote this? Because in 6 months, you couldn't do this.
Right.
In the transition, you could not do this. These were things that the left had plotted and planned forever. They have right now, on the transition team for Biden, they have already looked at all of the cabinet positions and who in what position will have the most levers. They don't care about the law. Who will have the actual levers to turn things off and on? They are plotting massive change to America. I believe it will be the end of America as we constitutionally know it.
I mean, that's quite a statement. That's quite a
Show
statement.
me where they're not saying that. Tomorrow night's special, the Wednesday night special.
Yeah. This is part 3, right?
Part 3. This is the last episode. We will show you their own words. Their own words. They're not afraid of them anymore.
Now, this goes back to something you've been saying for a very long time. At some point, they're going to get so frustrated and sick of this and think they're having their moment. And they could just take the masks off and say, essentially, we are socialists.
I said they want to tell you.
Desperately.
Because they don't like the average person. They think that they are so far above, and they know they're sick of listening and being thwarted by you little farmers. They want to tell you, yes, we're coming. And that's what they're telling you now.
Can Donald Trump successfully get that message across tonight?
I don't know. He's been doing a pretty good job lately. You know, he needs to make this a clear choice between American free market principles and the Constitution, rule of law, and insanity. What's amazing is the package of Joe Biden will make people think, okay, well, things will be back to normal. He doesn't hate America, and it doesn't want to. So they're looking for that normal from Joe Biden. But he is a Trojan horse. He's not in charge. He's not in charge. He's going nappy nap every day at noon, and I'm not kidding you. So who's in charge? He's the Trojan horse, where Donald Trump looks like the disruptor, which he is, but he's actually the stable one.
He's a very stable genius. We did learn that quite a while ago. Yeah. What does Donald Trump need to do tonight? If Donald Trump could get one thing done, what does he need to do?
No damage.
No damage.
Do no damage.
Well, people would say he's behind. He's got to do more than that.
I think you let if he can reassure the voters that they didn't fix the economy, they don't know how. They'll destroy it again. I can fix this economy, and you know it.
Yeah, and I think
you know it.
That. Yeah.
And also, these riots in the streets, I'm not for it. They are. I'm not. I will stop it. I will stop it. And your kids will be free from Marxist lectures, because I'm stopping that as well. These people are terrorists. That guy is in league. His allies are those people. You want more of that, vote for him. You want to return to sanity and rolling up your sleeves and saying, America's not going to be a part of this COVID madness forever. We will protect our people, but we're not going to destroy everyone else's lives all the way along. If he gets that away, he wins.
All right, 30 seconds left. If you're a Joe Biden advisor, turn this off immediately. What does Joe Biden try to do here tonight? What's the right thing for him to attempt to accomplish?
The most important thing he can do, and I don't think it's going to be hard, but his campaign said they wanted 3 breaks. Today they asked for 3 breaks during this, which is insanity. The biggest thing he has to do, stay focused, stay with us. Take the blue little pill and just stay with us. If he looks foggy or deer in headlights, I think it'll send a very bad message.
All right, Glenn Beck is going to join us over on the couch to watch the debate. We're all going to be watching it together. Got to go to the Stu Does America YouTube channel to catch that feed, and then we'll be back after the debate right here with a post-debate wrap-up. Glenn, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, back in a second.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, you know you have it right there. And call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
The Trump administration just unveiled a new 5G fast plan. His plan is opening the floodgates to a much-needed 3 million new jobs, $12.3 trillion in economic growth, and a brand new 5G device. I believe the company behind this 5G device is the #1 tech stock of 2020, and that it will go from $0 to nearly $100 billion in sales this year. I'm Jeff Brown, and I've had many questions from my appearances on Glenn Beck's radio and TV shows, which led me to create a newsletter to show you a new way to profit from the exploding tech market. In it, I share my analysis on the stock market, which stocks are poised to fall and which will do well. Check it out at browntechnews.com. In these volatile times, you need an independent expert who works for you to show you how you can protect and grow your wealth. Go to browntechnews.com. browntechnews.com.
Every day, your body's engaged in a microscopic battle. Foreign invaders like bacteria, fungus, and viruses are constantly attacking you. I'm naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, inventor of Texas Superfood, and it's your immune system's job to detect, deflect, and destroy these invaders and to keep you healthy. Your immune system needs healthy foods to keep you safe, but sadly, most Americans just don't eat right. In a capsule or powder, one daily dose of Texas Superfood is loaded with the vitamins and minerals and nutrients from 55 raw fruits and vegetables. So your best defense these days is a healthy immune system, and Texas Superfood can help you get it. So if you can't, won't, or don't eat all your fruits and vegetables every day, Texas Superfood is made for you. Start building a healthy immune system for under $2 a day. Go to TexasSuperfood.com. That's TexasSuperfood.com.
Joining us now is Steve Deace. He's the host of BlazeTV's The Steve Deace Show. You can watch it here on the network. Of course, subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, and everything else. Steve, welcome to the program.
Good to see you, Stu. I owe you an apology, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah, the Galaga machine.
Oh, no.
I was trying to beat your high score, and it fizzled out on me, and I had to unplug it and start it back in. Oh. So technically right now I have the top 4 high scores.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, but they're nowhere near where yours was at, so it probably won't last very long.
I thought you were going to tell me you beat me because my arm is actually tired from yesterday playing the stupid thing. No. You tweeted out 4 predictions before we came on the air. Can you walk us through them?
For tonight's debate, I think you're going to see 4 things. I think you're going to see former Vice President Biden. I think he's going to try as much as he can to focus on COVID-19. That's what Trump's America is. That's where Trump's leadership gets us. Are we locked down? Are we not? Are we reopening? Are we not? Different regions of the country aren't even sure if they're going to play a college football game and when they're going to start, because it ties into the Democratic notion that Trump is an agent of chaos and cannot be trusted.
And look, it feels chaotic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number 2, Trump is going to focus on what America was like prior to March 12th when the lockdowns began, because he had a very strong re-election record to run on prior to that. You had the best economic growth since the dot-com boom. You had the highest family median income growth since 1968, before either you or I were born.
It's an amazing stat that nobody knows.
And so I think he's going to say, hey, I got us there the first time. I can get us back there. We ran into this once in a century circumstance. We were learning on the fly. But already the job rate's coming down. We're going to have a big fiscal quarter this year. I can get us back to where we want to go. We don't want to break up what we had going, that momentum. Third, I think you're going to see Joe Biden's dementia. I don't believe will flash tonight. I think it'll be 90 minutes. I think You know, whether it's a Keith Richards cocktail they have to give him backstage,
Right, yeah.
but I think they'll find a way tonight for him, because it's everybody's expectation is we're going to see this tonight. And if there's anything 2020's been about, it's not delivering on our expectations.
Yeah, that's
right?
very true. Very true.
So I don't think we're going to see Joe Biden's dementia tonight.
That's a big, I mean, if he gets that done and doesn't have one of those moments where he flubs the line and stammers his way through something, I mean, that's a big win for Joe Biden. I think that's the thing that people who don't follow politics are nervous about with Joe. They think that he, you know, they're not worried about him being some crazy leftist, which they should be worried about. But they are worried about him, whether he's just mentally competent to do the role.
Isn't that an amazing statement that you just made? Aren't you? You know what? Now that Glenn's gone, just between you and I.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
Aren't you ready to celebrate? This is the last damn boomer election we're going to have.
I don't know.
I mean, seriously.
Bernie might run again.
I mean, enough. And this is kind of like the culmination of the 60s, really, where, I mean, you know, Trump represents what's left of the notion of traditional Americana within that generation. And then, you know, Biden represents social upheaval, cultural revolution, things of that nature. And then what happens after this election, if the Democrats lose, it'll be fascinating to see. Will they reassess where they're at whatsoever, or will they think we're not moving in the middle at all? We just need a better, more charismatic proxy. I think if Trump loses, I think you will see the Republican Party, particularly the base, become more radicalized than it has ever been, particularly going into the 2024 cycle. And then the fourth thing was, well, you know, the thing. Come on, man. No, I'm kidding.
That's true.
So the fourth thing is, if those other three things happen.
Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think maybe it doesn't move the needle as much as was anticipated going in.
Well, and I mean, you've been in the middle of these things. You've been in war rooms behind the scenes for actual candidates. You've done the real work. Usually that's the way it works, right? I mean, you see maybe a bump out of a big win or a big loss, but generally it seems to fade away. These debates don't normally turn the tide.
They don't, unless there's a moment that cements what the narrative is. You go back to 1992 when George H.W. Bush, you know, they had the fake news story that he didn't know how the checkout scanner worked. That was a total fake story. It still gets propagated today. But, you know, when he checked his watch and the woman's asking him, hey, about the national debt, and what does it mean to you? And he's like, what do you mean, what does it mean to me? She's like, well, I mean, you personally. And he starts like talking about his grandkids and stuff like that. And that kind of cemented that he was out of touch. You go to, in 2008, there's a fascinating moment, or 2012, in one of the debates where Romney is trying to make a point about Benghazi. And Obama looks at him and says, move on, Governor. Like I'm the alpha in the room. And Romney just baited up and moved on. In 1980, when Ronald Reagan looks at Jimmy Carter and says, there you go again, and then closing statement, when he looks into the camera and says, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? But most of the time, the fireworks we see in these debates, unless they reinforce the narrative going in somehow and cement it, they don't impact the final outcome as much as we think.
Yeah, and that goes not just for debates, but the entire campaign. I mean, you can build a narrative as a campaign, but you have to have that confirming event, right? It strikes me with like when people were talking about Hillary Clinton being corrupt all that time. And it kept building and building and building and building. And then a week before the election,
James Comey said she's corrupt.
She's corrupt. Yeah. And everyone's like, holy crap, she's really corrupt. And the race moved in a big way. Yeah, I mean, you know, that is a big thing. And, and as we enter this, the narrative has been, I think, successfully built, right or wrong, as a strategy. And we can talk about that as well, that Biden doesn't have it anymore. If he has a moment like that, that would confirm that narrative and could actually move
I agree that it would move the needle. I agree. And I think that's why I think they will have done anything, including the Ivan Drago training team, to dope him up to the point that cannot occur, because that would end the election right there. You know, both of these candidates, the issue they have is that there's a large group of people who should be voting for them, but are leery of doing so. Yeah. In Biden's case, it's because of what you just described. There's a lot of people that think that Trump is this disruptor and the media wasn't biased and everything was great and our suburbs all got along until Trump came along and messed everything up. And Biden will take us back to that time. You and I know that's not the case, but they think that way. But then they look at Biden and they think, well, maybe that's not the guy that'll be running the country if he wins. Maybe it's some of these crazy leftists that I also don't like.
Right.
With Trump, his issue is there's a lot of people, particularly in suburbs like where I live, that on the issues overwhelmingly agree with him more than they do Joe Biden. They should be wanting to vote for him. They should be voting for him. But even after 4 years, they're still not settled in their gut or in their spirit with him as the president. And I think what he needs to show is stature, poise, empathy, the stuff that a lot of our audiences want, frankly, the clickbait, you know, on Slow Joe and stuff like that, is not what will win over that last layer of voters that he needs to convince that he can, because it's really hard to make the case. Well, if you vote for the other guy, there'll be civil unrest in the streets. Well, there's civil unrest in the streets right now.
Yeah.
Show me that you can do something about it. Well, if you vote for the other guy, you know, we might have 40 million people unemployed. Well, 2 months ago, we had 40 million unemployed right now, right? And so I think he needs to show the country President Trump. I think he actually needs to tower above Joe Biden in stature. Needs the country to see that Joe Biden is yesterday's candidate, that Donald Trump is the candidate for the here and now.
Going back to 2016 for a minute, because I made this point even earlier tonight, where the race right now, as far as the lead goes, is about the same as it was with Hillary Clinton. It's been much more consistent. Biden's had a consistent lead in the polls, where the Clinton one has gone up, bounced up and down. But from right about now on, I mean, they're at the same point that they were. A big difference, though, is third-party and undecided voters. There's much less of them this time. Biden, while he has a similar lead, is at or above 50% in a lot of these polls. Is there enough room for Trump to move people, or is it just cemented?
Well, in the places where it matters the most, yes. I mean, California is going to make sure. If you ever woke up one morning, Stu, and you thought to yourself, I wonder how many postage stamps exist in the state of California, you are about to find out. Yeah. Right? Because if you go back to 2016, I mean, he lost that state, Trump did, by 4 million votes. He won the other 49 states in the popular vote by over 1 million votes. All right, so California's job is to make sure that the Democrats walk out of this election, at the very least, with the talking point that we won the popular vote again, even if it takes every damn postage stamp in the state of California to make it happen. Right. All right, so that factors into some of the general election stuff. But on a state-to-state level, the states that matter most, Arizona, I think, is the key in the Electoral College for Trump, because if he can manage to hold on to that state, then he's only got to win one of those hotly contested Rust Belt states, I think, to get to 270. All right, there are enough people in those places because of how far left the Democratic Party has gone. It's why you've seen states like Ohio and Florida. And traditionally, if a Republican wins Ohio and Florida, they have won the presidency every single time. Those were states that looked like they were either trending Biden or toss-ups right now. I think the Trump campaign probably feels pretty comfortable about where they stand in those states right now, meaning they probably think they have about a 3 to 4 point lead in those states if we had to vote. So I think in the places where the battle is going to be contested these last 30 days, yes, there are enough persuadable voters. But you have to. Trump is the consummate salesman here, and he has to sell them what they want to buy, not what he wants to sell them, okay? What they want to buy is President Trump, a steadying hand that can put the country back to where it was before March the 12th. That's what they want to buy. He has to sell them that, not the Slow Joe troll and things of that nature.
We'll leave it there. Steve Deace, thanks for taking a couple of minutes. Make sure to subscribe to Steve's YouTube feed, podcast, and everything else. He's on Blaze TV every single day. Steve, thanks for coming on the program.
You bet, Stu. Sorry about the gallagher again.
I'm very upset about that, but we'll still be back in a second. I mean, look, it was well over 400,000. That's the only problem with it. Do you have a big problem with big tech? I know most of us do. You know what they have in common with the government? Well, they both want to silence dissenting voices into submission. To fight back against having your voice censored by both big tech and big government, I fully recommend ExpressVPN. The problem with big tech is that they get to track everything you do online, and they can match your activity to your true identity using your device's unique IP address. You know all the games they play. Well, when you use ExpressVPN, they can't see your IP address at all. They have no idea. You're anonymized with a secure VPN server. Plus, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of my internet data and yours as well. When people are looking at, we're talking about eavesdropping or hackers or whatever weirdo is online. So stop letting big tech and big government censor and track you. Defend your rights and protect yourself with expressvpn.com/Stu. The /Stu part of the address is important because that's how they know you like this stupid show. It's expressvpn.com/Stu to get 3 months free. Visit expressvpn.com/Stu to learn more.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, only $29.99 with your promo code. With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose. Sleep well, America!
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
At touchofmodern.com, we get that the things you surround yourself with reflect who you are. Your style, your drive, your passions. Venture through a curated collection of astonishing items at touchofmodern.com, because sometimes things aren't just things, they're you. Go to touchofmodern.com and discover the world's most unexpected items.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
This is not steak. This is a family tradition, 100 years in the making. This is hand-cut, butcher-selected beef, aged to peak tenderness. This isn't steak. This is Omaha Steaks. Home to all you crave. Seafood, chops, burgers, and of course, steak. All shipped right to your doorstep. This is Omaha Steaks, the best steak of your life, or your money back, guaranteed. Shop our Steak Lovers event and get free chicken and pork. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV.
I've always had a problem with sweaty hands.
My feet were so sweaty. The general sports bra area.
My upper lip and my forehead.
It was just stressful.
It's really been a tremendous struggle.
Like most people, we don't just sweat under the arms. So we created the Carpe line of sweat management products for all over the body.
I haven't had sweaty hands in 2 years since I started using Carpe.
Honestly, just completely changed my life.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Get the solution for your sweat today at mycarpe.com.
People across America trust Nutrisystem because we deliver your favorite foods made healthier right to your door. It's convenient home delivery of delicious meals and snacks to help you stay healthy. We're here for you now. Save 50% on a month of delicious meals delivered safely to your door. And shipping is free. Plus, get a week of probiotic shakes to help support your immunity free. And with our free online support, you're never alone.
Nutrisystem is always there for me. I'm one of the millions who lost weight with Nutrisystem.
Thank you to Nutrisystem for helping us stay healthy.
Let us help you stay healthy. Save 50% on a month of delicious meals delivered safely to your door. And shipping is free. We're all in this together. And we're here for you.
We got this.
Go online or call 877-709-FIT5 and save 50% on a month of meals delivered to your door.
Welcome back to Stu Does America. We're doing the debates tonight, of course. If you're watching on Blaze TV YouTube channel, welcome. We do this every night, by the way, over on Stu Does America. That's the YouTube channel you should go to. Subscribe to that right now. And if I'd give you one little piece of advice, because we're going to have the whole debate watch party over there in just a couple of minutes. Another piece of advice, though, is to also subscribe to Pat Gray Unleashed on YouTube. It's a great place to go. Pat Gray joins us now.
Genius advice.
It is good advice,
Absolute
right?
Absolute genius.
I thought it worked.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about advice, what's your advice for Donald Trump tonight? What's he trying to do?
Just do what he does. You know, what he does is what people want. Apparently,
it doesn't seem to do anything else, right? Right. Trump does Trump. There's no other.
Trump has to do Trump.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know what he was doing the other day, if he was trying to be nice or whatever, what he was saying that Biden's probably going to do well. He does fine. He's got a lot of experience. He's going to be fine. Like, that's not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's not the Donald Trump I want to see tonight. I want to see the Donald Trump who is on, you know, the attack.
Yeah.
He's aggressive. He's going after Joe Biden, and he's talking about his issues and his problems and the fact that he may not be all there. That's the Donald Trump I want.
Now, that would be very entertaining. Is it good strategy, though? Because
I think it is. His base loves it, right? I mean,
it's true.
The people who hate him are going to hate him, and the people who love him are going to love him.
Do you think he has to move people that are undecided still, though? Is that still part of this?
Is there anybody undecided?
How could there be? You have to just not be paying attention, right?
Yeah, I don't even understand how that's possible. I really don't understand how it's possible that you're oh, I can't figure it out. This one's pretty tough. Wow.
Yeah.
Do I go with the guy who signed on with the radical left-wing agenda and Marxism? Or do I go with the guy who loves America? Huh.
It shouldn't be that tough.
It shouldn't.
So I think maybe what Trump was trying to do there, though, right, is to say he doesn't want to lower expectations so much, right?
I think that's what he was doing.
People are trying, you know, and I've done this. I know you've done it as well. You know, I'm not a Republican strategist. It's not my job to make, you know, the path easier for Donald Trump. I want to cover and to tell the truth, and I know that's yours as well. The truth is that Joe Biden absolutely looks like he's losing it. Is that a good strategy, though, for Donald Trump to be implemented?
Yeah, because I think it'll upset Biden, and when he gets upset, it might throw him off his game. You know, there's a rumor that he's taking anti-Alzheimer's drugs, and like Namenda, but Namenda is for, I think, moderate to severe. So I don't know that he's taken that, because I don't think he's there yet. But he's definitely in. To me, early stage.
Dr. Pat.
Early stage dementia.
Yeah.
Okay. In my medical opinion, he's in early stage.
You have examined him?
Yes, I've examined him many times on the air.
Okay.
Many, many times. And, you know, maybe he's taken Aricept or something, but because there are times when he's lucid. And there are times when he's completely out to lunch.
I feel like people who have not been following this, and there's more than normal, I think a lot of people, you know, worried about whether their kids are going to go back to school and whether their business is going to open up again. People are focused on other things, and they haven't been following the election like they normally do. I think there's a decent amount of people that are going to tune in and think he's not even going to be able to finish a sentence. And while I would not be shocked if he couldn't finish a sentence the entire debate, he's probably going to do better than that.
Yeah, they're going to have him hopped up on something tonight.
He's going to get. Well,
he's gonna have something.
I kind of expect him to get through this.
Yeah, I mean, he has to, right? They have to be pretty confident that they can get him through an hour and a half. Otherwise, I think he would have come down with COVID-19.
Right.
And we wouldn't be here.
Not feeling so well.
Yeah, he's sick. He's really, I mean, he'll be okay eventually, but he's really sick right now and can't do the debate. We would have heard that.
Let me flip it to the other side. If you're, again, a Biden advisor tuning into the Blaze TV YouTube feed, just turn it off right now. Go watch the debate somewhere else. What does Joe Biden try to do tonight? Like, what is his goal? If for Joe Biden to win, what does he need to accomplish?
I think he just has to stay lucid, like we were discussing. I think if he stays lucid, he does pretty well. I think everybody will say, because the media is going to give him the pass anyway. The media is going to be on his side, and they're going to say he won regardless. So if he doesn't have any of those really bad gaffes or really bad, I don't know what I'm saying right now, moments, I think for CNN and MSNBC, that's going to be plenty. And I think for them, he wins. I don't think he wins for, you know, the Trump voters. But I think just staying lucid is probably the best he can do, really.
The bar is set low, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so there's been sort of, and we are in a constant news cycle all the time. There's always another story to outweigh the story that you thought was going to be the only story for the next few weeks. We've had 2 or 3 big ones here in the past few days. Do any of them make a difference here? The Supreme Court, Trump's taxes, any of this, is this going to be a big part of the debate, and does it make a dent in the election?
I don't know that the taxes will be a big issue, but I think COVID-19 will be a big issue. They've already set out the agenda, apparently, that Chris Wallace decided on. And so the taxes kind of came in late. So I don't know if he jams that in or not. But you got to talk about Amy Coney Barrett, right? And Biden will have to talk about how radically right-wing she is and try to disparage her that way.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a part of it.
I'll be interested to see what his take is, because so many on the left have gone like, you're mega Catholic or ultra super mega Doppler Catholic. And Biden supposedly is Catholic too, right?
Right.
I've never, I don't know, but I mean, that's at least what my understanding is. Does he try to have that moment where he calls out his own side? Because I think that's the type of thing that Biden could do that might actually make a difference to the people in the middle, the people who might not like Trump, but don't want to see their cities burned to the ground. You know, a moment where you say, hey, I don't want my cities to burn to the ground. I hate the people who are calling Amy Coney Barrett, we're bashing her religion. Like, those types of things you'd think would be easy. Calling out Antifa by name.
Yeah.
These things seem basic, but they can't seem to accomplish them.
Years ago, I think that would have happened. Now, I think the party is too radical for that. I think that he gets in too much trouble with the left for doing something like that. And I think it hurts him really badly with his base if he were to call out anybody on the Democrat side.
I mean, AOC runs this party.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
I mean, she's a dunce, and she runs this party. How is this?
I don't know how we got here.
How is this possible?
I don't know how we let it happen.
Is there a question in your mind that, because this has been tossed around a lot, if this goes well for Biden, is a good first debate, gets out of there unscathed, cements his lead, whatever that is he trying to get out of the other two debates? That's been tossed around.
Everybody thinks so, don't they?
It does seem that.
Everybody on the right at least thinks so. If he's doing the Fox News debate, so I don't know why you would try to duck the other two that are going to be more left-wing friendly.
I mean, Chris Wallace is he's not like a super friend of conservatives, but he should. I think he will at least ask Biden a couple of times.
I think he'll be fair. He'll be fair. Otherwise, Trump will tear him limb from limb, and I think he knows that. But it's going to be better with Chris Wallace than it will be on NBC. We know that.
Yeah. And it's the first one. That's when most people watch. It usually gets the biggest numbers. Last year, or 2016's first debate was the most watched debate of all time. You think this one challenges that? We got about 20 seconds. No?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
I don't feel like people have that. I don't know. Maybe people just have they're used to the Trump thing now. They've got their minds made up. We'll see. It's going to be a big night. We've got the debates coming up. You got to go to the Stu Does America YouTube channel to watch the feed. Myself, Pat will be there. Glenn will be there. I think Steve might be there as well. Just watching the debate, doing some light commentary, reaction over the top, maybe some quick fact checks. It's going to be a really fun time. And then back here, Blaze TV YouTube channel for the debate after show. It's going to be great. Pat Gray Unleashed. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. You can do that right now in the commercial break. It's coming up right now, and that's when people can subscribe, right? It's open to subscribe?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes,
right now. Doors are open. Businesses right now. Go do it.
Operators are standing by.
I am surrounded by a new family of people who have their life back because of Relief Factor. I'm one of them. I was in pain and got to the point to where I couldn't do it anymore. Anybody else feel like, I can't get up another day? We have our life back because of Relief Factor. It's not a television commercial. It's a group of real people with real results that had real pain. Try it yourself, Relief Factor. This guy, when he started, completely bald. Look at him now. Doesn't do anything for your hair, but it will help you get out of pain. Give it a shot. Try the 3-week quick start. Doesn't work? Move on. But we're here to tell you it works. ReliefFactor.com.
Let the back-breaking struggle begin. The toughest job of the year is back. But this year, you can have the advantage with the amazing Cyclone Rake. The Cyclone Rake is the all-in-one property cleanup machine that turns fall cleanup into a ride in the park. It hitches to your riding mower and easily vacuums and mulches anything on the ground. In a few easy hours, you can do the work of a 5-man crew, taking your yard from this to this. And most amazing of all, when you're done, the Cyclone Rake folds up flat and hangs right on the wall. It takes no more storage space than a push mower. Backed by the best warranty in the industry and the unmatched Cyclone Rake 1-year money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose but all those leaves. Make this the year you turn autumn into your favorite season. Call today to order or to get your free information kit, or go to CycloneRake.com.
From the makers of top-selling Super Beets comes new Super Beets Heart Chews, a superfood breakthrough that's bursting with flavor and unique polyphenols that help support healthy blood pressure and circulation so your body can produce more heart-healthy energy.
The chews are so great. Super Beets gets me going. It gets my circulation flowing, and I have that energy all through the day. It's just fantastic. I love it.
When I researched Super Beets, I was impressed by all the science behind the Super Beets chews. It's amazing that something so simple can be this great for my heart.
What makes Super Beets polyphenols so different from other antioxidants? In a leading clinical study, Super Beets polyphenol compound was shown nearly 2 times as effective at promoting normal blood pressure as a healthy lifestyle alone.
In my 31 years of helping people maintain healthy blood pressure, I've never seen a polyphenol compound this effective. Super Beets antioxidants help support healthy blood pressure and help your body produce more energy.
I never knew how my blood pressure and my blood flow were so connected to my energy level, and now I know. I'm playing tennis longer. I don't get tired after one set. I can totally feel the difference.
Call now and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews, plus a free bonus pack of delicious vitamin D3 chews for immune health support. Act now, and we'll even include free shipping and free returns, all backed by our 90-day money-back guarantee. That's over $30 in total free gifts. So try Super Beets Chews today.
I love the chews because they're delicious and they're so convenient.
I absolutely love what they do for my energy. My blood pressure is healthy, and my energy level has been phenomenal.
So do something good for your blood pressure and your energy. Love your results or your money back.
Call 1-800-953-0773 or visit superbeetschews.com. That's 1-800-953-0773. Call today.
Okay, this is it. Take a deep breath. Just minutes away from the first Trump-Biden debate. If you want to watch with us, we're going to have the entire debate, and we'll be taking it all in, along with you, and occasional live fact checks and commentary. I think you're going to like it. Plus, we might be, maybe, rating some answers like Olympic judges. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm not saying it's not happening. If you're on the Stu Does America YouTube page, you're already in the right place. If you're somewhere else, come on over. Get the YouTube link at StuDoesAmerica.com. Make sure to click subscribe and the little bell for notifications. We're going to have some great election programming, including emergency monologues to address breaking news as the election approaches. So you don't want to miss any of it. If you're watching on Blaze TV or Pluto TV, you'll be getting the uninterrupted stream coming up of the debate. And don't forget about Steven Crowder's live coverage going on right now at his YouTube channel. That's going to be great to watch as well. After the debate is over, come back here. We're going to have the post-game wrap-up with Glenn Beck, Steve Deace, Pat Gray, Dave Rubin, Allie Stuckey, and more. It's going to be a great group. So we've got you covered in every way possible. As we get closer to the start of the debate, it's worth thinking about this entire process. We spend a lot of time encouraging people to vote, and that's great. The idea that is, look, if you're of age to vote, you should do so. It's your responsibility, right? But is that true? I mean, sure, if you pay attention to the news, go ahead, vote. If you're spending time trying to understand the policies, sure, go vote. If you've spent 1 second reading instead of staring at TikTok, then yes, go ahead, vote. If you haven't done any of those things, stay home. We shouldn't encourage every moron to go out there and rock the vote. Even if you come to the opposite conclusion, I encourage you to vote if you know what you're talking about. We should encourage people to learn, then vote. Learn first, then vote. The order is important. You're supposed to learn, and then after you've learned, then you vote. We've forgotten about that a little bit. You can remind all of your idiot friends about the process and the order of this process by wearing the t-shirt, learn, then vote. The order is important. It's available at learnthenvote.com. What is sad about this whole process is, for many people, their entire education of who they will vote for begins and maybe ends in the next couple of hours. Those are the stakes tonight. Trump versus Biden, round one. It begins next.
Hey guys, it's Candace Owens. Before we begin the show, I want to tell you more about PragerU. PragerU is a digital media organization that produces my podcast, The Candace Owens Show, as well as many others. All of our content is available on the internet for free. In order to keep it that way, we rely on the generosity of supporters like you to keep us going. So please head to PragerU.com and make a tax-deductible donation today.
The pledge is just too aggressive towards immigrants.
Glenn Beck takes on progressives.
We cannot allow the Democrats and the media to strip away our God-given rights.
And talks common sense.
Socialism isn't something to be glorified on a T-shirt.
Glenn TV. Watch exclusive episodes at BlazeTV.com/Glenn.
Crowder. When we talk about America first, this is a perfect example.
News.
Why would you be rooting for a country that's trying to damage our economy?
And pop culture.
You know who's not rock and roll? Trevor Noah.
Louder with Crowder. Watch exclusive episodes at BlazeTV.com/Crowder.
The distinction between the media and the Democrat Party does not exist anymore.
Mark Levin speaks his mind.
What the hell do you think this phony impeachment thing's all about?
And holds nothing back.
Listen to this moron, rambling buffoon.
Levin TV. Watch exclusive episodes at BlazeTV.com/Levin.
The distinction between the media and the Democrat Party does not exist anymore.
Mark Levin speaks his mind.
What the hell do you think this phony impeachment thing's all about?
And holds nothing back.
Listen to this moron, rambling buffoon.
Levin TV. Watch exclusive episodes at BlazeTV.com/Levin.
The distinction between the media and the Democrat Party does not exist anymore.
Mark Levin speaks his mind.
What the hell do you think this phony impeachment thing's all about?
And holds nothing back.
Listen to this moron, rambling buffoon.
Levin TV. Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Blaze Live.
Crowder. When we talk about America first, this is a perfect example.
News.
Why would you be rooting for a country that's trying to damage our economy?
And pop culture.
You know who's not rock and roll? Trevor Noah.
Louder with Crowder. Watch exclusive episodes at BlazeTV.com/Crowder. Uncomfortable truths.
Gay people being executed in 15 Muslim majority countries.
And honest conversations.
That's what my goal is in life, is to give young brothers a different perspective.
The Rubin Report with Dave Rubin. Watch exclusive content at BlazeTV.com/Dave. Exclusively on Blaze TV.
These communist movements happening all over the world.
We don't just give you the news.
Somewhere along the line, they forgot to focus on an election.
We tell you why it matters.
We get the news, we say why we think it matters.
The news and why it matters. Watch on demand at BlazeTV.com. Weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern.
These communist movements happening all over the world.
We don't just give you the news.
Somewhere along the line, they forgot to focus on an election.
We tell you why it matters.
We get the news, we say why we think it matters.
The news and why it matters. Weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern on Blaze Live. Weekday mornings.
The press has destroyed itself.
Glenn asks the serious questions.
Average Democrats, when are you going to wake up? What is it going to take?
And tackles the tough topics.
Bloomberg's the guy who will first come for your guns.
It's informative.
Technology is about to change the world forever.
And always entertaining.
I got some cattle, I'm driving to town.
The Glenn Beck Program. Watch on demand at BlazeTV.com/Glenn. Weekday mornings.
The press has destroyed itself.
Glenn asks the serious questions
Average Democrats, when are you going to wake up? What is it going to take?
and tackles the tough topics.
Bloomberg's the guy who will first come for your guns.
It's informative
Technology is about to change the world forever.
and always entertaining.
I got some cattle, I'm driving to town.
The Glenn Beck Program, weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on Blaze Live.
Apparently saying the pledge is just too aggressive towards immigrants.
Exclusively on Blaze TV.
They have flipped the idea of America on its head.
Glenn Beck breaks it down.
I don't think that's abuse of power. I think that's what a president should be doing.
Takes on progressives.
We cannot allow the Democrats and the media to strip away our God-given rights.
And talks common sense.
Let me cut through and translate bullcrap right directly to English.
Glenn TV. Watch exclusive episodes at blazetv.com/Glenn.
Apparently saying the pledge is
This
just...
debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time. Even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now. Before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? And before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any, and one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me about this.
I'm happy to talk about this.
And if you were here,
Look,
it wouldn't be
here's the deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily
Mr. President,
infected. You would have been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're
Mr.
not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
and
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
Obamacare.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people with
President, I'm the moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question.
Go ahead.
You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example, insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big, this is big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
Well, if I can ask you the question, it will
not
end.
What your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not going to
agree?
listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
You graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Do you have any
President.
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by
Obamacare
the way, he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
Fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never done a single thing.
as you might know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize if you're both speaking at the same time,
and it's too expensive.
Let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? Yeah. If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what
and I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Okay. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right. I have one final question for you,
sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question is Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you...
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait
a minute. It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
there was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And,
you would have been
and by the way,
late.
his own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer?
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
So you're suggesting that the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Smiley?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering.
is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically, and you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine sooner
I want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yes.
suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by
I
the way.
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in charge.
By the way.
They will have
and
the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
see,
and
We're
it's
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking
When
about
it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi. And Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate. And he sits on his golf course. And I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
Oh.
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a political
Those
states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
no, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious.
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this
masks
segment.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People with...
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not worried about it spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about the disease
We have a lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do. You got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. You got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's his yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen, we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
one year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to do, go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very, I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that.
But let me...
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes, on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward, because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth, because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make, the federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500, who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming, it turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. if you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
He blew it. It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you're on number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. Part of my standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought back the automobile industry.
All right, let him.
We brought back. I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit with Mexico.
China ate your lunch, down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
None of that is true.
Let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't get
$3.5 million? Mr. President,
Mr.
President, please.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
he got $3.5 million.
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Burisma pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
Mr. President, let him answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And you
the media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank, by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
So let me ask you this.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
He got $3.5 million from Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd
honorably.
like to know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't do a good job. With you,
go ahead. Wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me.
Hey, let me just say,
No. I'm Mr. President.
$3.5 million, Joe.
That is simply
Why did he deserve $3.5 million from Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's already...
My family lost a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's such a...
Mr. President.
Every single one of them lost a fortune.
This is not about my family or his family. It's about your family, the American people. He doesn't... That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about here.
All right, that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice President,
no. Can I be honest? It's a very important
question. Try to be honest.
He stood up.
No, the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that
get rid
is
of
absolutely not true.
You're
going to have
true.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but I see it seems to be. Why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than he
all right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
does
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people looked like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is who's
now,
sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African-American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
he did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, They heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've been order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case.
An order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest?
President Trump,
No, it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order. And you still haven't mentioned. Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead.
I'm in favor. You asked a question. Let him finish.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more in ours.
All right, we're now. Mr. President, you're going to. Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support. Look, he has no law enforcement support.
That's not true.
Almost nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
about
it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported you.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it
But
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Oh,
really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the
all right.
But here's the point.
Go ahead,
the point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just 1
no.
second.
You've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it. and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send in the National Guard. It would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do that,
specifically
but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a left-wing
threat of
problem.
white supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what? He's wrong.
We're done, sir.
Everybody,
we're moving on to the next.
everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
When a bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you, because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah,
Because-
yes,
okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right, but he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right,
tens of millions of dollars. That is totally, that's been totally discredited.
We've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about
not true.
Gentlemen,
that report is totally discredited.
Mitt
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. the forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored
No, but you would take a lot of
your
cars
rollback
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Right. Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations in all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down
Go
buildings
for a minute, and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous.
is not-
where airplanes are out of
minute,
business,
sir.
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's not
true.
true either, right?
Not
this is
true.
a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going to.
the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. But the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
New you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
You want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about,
He made a statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did is he
You're done
said
in this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He said stupid
please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never say that.
Play
to
it. Play it.
Go ahead. Mr. Vice President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support
that means you just lost the radical left.
I support the Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day? What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You're going to get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter, of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
they
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
If there
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now,
do
what
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I'm not,
okay,
I know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go and vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is,
like they used to in the old.
Millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
There is no evidence
This is
of that.
not going to end well.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
You're wrong. You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this, Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you, that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots
I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already there's been
so
fraud.
Mail service delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen. In the final question in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the Vice President, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I'm urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean,
from a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night. Thank you.
Apparently saying the pledge is just too aggressive towards immigrants.
Glenn Beck takes on progressives.
We cannot allow the Democrats and the media to strip away our God-given rights.
And talks common sense.
Socialism isn't something to be glorified on a T-shirt.
Glenn TV. Watch exclusive episodes at blazetv.com/Glenn. The mainstream media giants are dying. For too long, they believed they could get away with anything. Fake news, puff pieces, outright lies. But let's get real. Their old school BS is, well, old. We are Blaze TV, the only media platform committed to the stories, issues, and topics that matter to you.
Cut the police. Oh, that's genius. Cut the police.
The right to bear arms. The left doesn't believe in that at all, but they believe in free internet for all.
These people want to control your health care.
Blaze TV has the biggest collection of conservative voices you'll find anywhere.
It is unashamedly conservative constitutionalists.
And we're not beholden to anyone or anything except the truth. So rest in peace, mainstream media. Your time is up. Try Blaze TV for free right now at blazetv.com.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? I have a round table with Stu and Pat and Steve Deace, and we also are going to have Dave Rubin checking in. Allie Stuckey is going to be checking in. A couple of other people. We'll get the opinions. Let me just start here. I thought this was evidence of a civil war with a very uncivil debate. I don't think it served either buddy for a knockout. I thought there were chances missed on Donald Trump's side. We'll get into. It was round after round after round of mischaracterizations and out-and-out lies, I thought, from the left. Donald Trump strangely seemed to have a grasp of the facts much more than he did 4 years ago. I thought he had some really good moments, but I don't know if anybody is going to see them or remember. The big thing that I took away from it is that Donald Trump spoke to the American people, even though he wasn't looking into the camera, which Joe Biden was doing. He was giving the message that I think is resonating with the people who are actually watching. My job. What's going to happen with my job? What's going to happen with the economy? When am I going to stop wearing this stupid mask? When are we going to go back to normal? That's what people are talking about. And I think Donald Trump reiterated that, and Joe Biden was speaking about some sort of alternative America, some sort of alternative reality where Donald Trump screwed up the economy and never really had a good economy. I don't think that was connecting with the American people. Donald Trump, it's really easy. I'm not for white supremacists, KKK, terrorist group. I'm willing to do it. You just said that. I also said that with Antifa. Now ask him if he'll do the same. He blew that. There was nothing solved. I don't think that the American people were well served by this. I don't think that they were talking about anything that people are actually going to vote on. Very few times that I go, yeah, okay, that's where people are living. That's what people actually care about. The rest of it was, I thought it was garbage and unlistenable. And Chris Wallace asked the questions that I would expect a mainstream media personality to ask. He seemed to be playing referee for Joe Biden, who Joe Biden to me seemed like my grandfather. He started out, you can hear he has no wind power. He's talking from here, and he's just really, and he sounded bad. And as the night went on, he got weaker and weaker and weaker. He didn't have any Metamucil moments, but I do think that he is certainly not the man that he was even in the primary season. How is he going to last 4 more years? One last thing. It is absolutely reprehensible that in this season, the moderator of this debate, when the major news came out about Hillary Clinton and the entire Russia hoax, it is now verifiably a hoax. The news that came out late this afternoon, for that not to be even a question for Joe Biden is remarkable and reprehensible. But nobody's going to know that because we're all watching our own sides and not listening to the other side. So let me go to Stu.
Just to add on to what you said, because I agree with that, I would say one of the biggest accomplishments of this administration was, I mean, if you go back to 2016, we had, there was debate after debate. A big portion of it was about ISIS and how they had a caliphate going. The fact that that's not even a topic of conversation anymore.
Not just ISIS. The Middle East peace.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest story in the Middle East in the past 30 years. And, how Trump doesn't bring it up on his own is one thing. The fact that there's not even one question about what happened there is really, I think, a shame. I think people will remember this a lot because there's just a lot of chaos. There's a lot of them talking over each other. I think Joe Biden goes into this thing and can't have a Metamucil moment, a brain malfunction in the middle of it. I don't think he had that moment. I think it seemed like the Trump approach there was to say, let's get under his skin. We'll go after him early. We'll get him angry, and he won't be able to control himself. It seemed like Biden was prepared for that tactic at some level, where he kind of tried to force himself into this weird mellow state. I don't know. It was a very strange tone from Biden, I thought, the whole time. He never really emoted except for when he was talking about his son, which seemed like a totally forced monologue.
He said, shut up.
Yeah.
He called the president a clown.
He did. Yep.
And he called him a liar, a racist.
Right, but I think that it was all in that same, I don't know, that same speed, that same tone. I mean, he never emoted. It was like it was a very odd, like the Sleepy Joe thing felt accurate.
Yeah, it did.
Watching him do that tonight. I don't think there's a huge knockout blow for either side, though. And I think, from Biden's perspective, considering all the help he'll get from the media, he's probably going to look at that as not a disaster.
Steve Deace, his head is going to explode, but I'm going to ask you to hold on for a few more minutes because I want to get Pat's point of view on what you thought.
Worst debate maybe of all time.
Whose fault?
You got to blame the moderator, right? You got to blame Chris Wallace because he's supposed to maintain control. He didn't. He didn't.
How do you do that when you have anarchy between the two?
It's really difficult.
I had a real problem with Chris Wallace when he said, keep it down. You promised. You said you wouldn't do it. Stop it. And Trump said, you mean that to both of us, right? Well, no, I mainly mean it to you. Well, wait a minute. Hang on. They were both doing it.
Biden did plenty of that.
Yeah.
If you asked me who won the debate early on, I would have said Donald Trump.
Me too.
But later, as the debate wore on and chaos ensued, I'm not sure anybody won the debate, but I think Biden will be declared the winner by the mainstream media.
Of course they will. I mean, we knew that before the debate even happened, so there's no surprise.
But, I mean, they've got a legitimate case. He, I guess he interrupted less, maybe. I don't know.
But what did he say?
Very little. Very little that made sense. He did have a couple of almost really serious Metamucil moments, especially toward the end. He almost melted down, but he somehow kept, I'm thinking drugs is the way he held on to it. But he did hold on to it. And I think one of the reasons that they wanted the 3 breaks, was it 3 breaks in a half an hour?
No, in an hour and a half. 3 breaks but every half hour.
Every half hour, yeah. So 6 total? 9 total?
I thought it was 1 per half hour, but I could be wrong.
1 per half hour, so 3 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Still.
And I think that's because of the medication he's taken. He probably was wearing Depends while he was standing there at the podium.
I don't think this is really I think they needed him to rest because he lost energy. He started out with very little, and it just was almost gone halfway through. All right, Mr. Deace.
I feel like that Jonah Hill gif. Okay. First thing we all need to do is pray to Allah that this is our final boomer election. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of what transpired here, I think if the goal was to see if you could use the debate process to lower voter turnout, I think this was a rousing success. I think if you are 150,000% committed to voting for each of these men a few times, you loved this, okay? I think that if you went into the clickiest, clickbaity faction of each candidate and said, hey, make sure you call him a racist and a clown, box checked, check, okay? Bring up Hunter Biden more often than you bring up anything else that people care about, check. And so a lot of people that tuned in looking for a reason to vote for either one of these individuals that maybe were undecided, I think are now would prefer to not have to decide. I think that there's playing to the converted, and then there is whatever this was. The airing of grievances sponsored by Festivus, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but I don't think that it advanced anybody's cause. I think it simultaneously helped and hurt everybody all at the exact same time. And one of the issues you had, and Pat mentioned the problem with the moderator. Well, the problem with the moderator is Chris Wallace asked every damn question from Joe Biden's premise.
Sure did.
And so when you do that to Donald Trump, he is not George Bush or Mitt Romney. He is going to not accept your premise. Now, the problem is the way that he communicates is thus. He won't accept your premise. He then needs to take 15 to 20 seconds to tell you how great he is and how he's done whatever the issue is better than anybody else. He then takes another minute to minute and a half, give you the correct statistics, often though in sort of an indecipherable context, before he then hovers back around to what the right answer is. But now we're into 3 and 4 minutes of a 2-minute answer, which gives Chris Wallace the excuse to go in there and interrupt him because he's past his time. And we just did this dance like the damn time warp for an hour and a half. Meanwhile, it provided Joe Biden an opportunity not to have to do very often what he was the most scared to do, talk. It provided him an opportunity to sit there and be a spectator and just call Trump names whenever he wanted to not have to provide any policy specifics at all. I thought the 2 most damning parts of the debate for Joe Biden were when he couldn't name any law enforcement agency that was supporting him, when he refused to answer the question on stacking of the court. See, that's what Trump should have done far more of than defending and debating Chris Wallace. He should have forced Joe Biden to go on the record more, and he missed numerous opportunities to do that.
I think that's why I think I felt comfortable sort of with Trump at the very beginning, because he was saying, no, answer that.
Yeah.
Just tell me. Just tell me. If he would have just been doing that, yes or no, deny it or not, deny it or not, deny it or not, it would have been much more powerful because you needed to put him on record. I think he did have a plan because he was just doing body blows. Boom, 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 boom.
I think he thought that antagonizing Biden would get him off his game and make the senior moments happen.
Yeah.
The problem is, this is still an adult male, all right? If you followed Biden on the campaign trail, the pugilism isn't his issue. He's a long-time political combatant. You saw what he did to Paul Ryan. You mentioned that earlier today when we were talking about this, Stu. That actually woke Biden up, all right? What Biden doesn't want to have to do is offer specifics on policy. One, he can't. He just can't. He can't articulate it cogently. And then two, when he does, he's instantly outside the mainstream of at least 51% of American voters.
Or if he is in the mainstream, he's alienated his real base.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's an unwinnable proposition for him, and he was let off the hook because Trump made it more of a personality contest and less about issues.
I think it would have been helpful to give Biden more rope to be able to hang himself with.
You said that halfway through during the debate. You said, I'd let him give rope, and you're right.
Yeah, you got to get out of his way for him to have those moments, right? A lot of times I think, Trump a couple times I think used this tactic effectively. Biden would be trying to have this moment to the camera, this big moment where he would have a soundbite that you could tell was planned, and Trump would jump in over it, kind of ruining the soundbite. He did that a couple times effectively, but more often he interrupted moments that could have led to the Biden downfall. He kept jumping in, and then Biden could just stop. And of course, Biden gets into his trouble when he keeps talking and tries to finish these sentences where he doesn't know where he's going.
So let me ask you this, because for me, the biggest thing was Biden seemed like the crypt keeper to me. He seemed like somebody who hasn't really even lived in the last 4 years. And is all of a sudden showing up and he's like, that's not the way it is. And you're like, where have you been? What are you talking about? That's not the way. When he was talking about Donald Trump and his the COVID, the early COVID, everybody remembers. Everybody remembers about that. When he talks about, I'm going to make the economy greatest. He shut it down. Everybody knows the truth of that. When we didn't have a good economy under Donald Trump, everybody remembers. Is that going to play a role? Was he? There's one thing to say, yeah, you're lying about this. The Hunter Biden thing. That's not true. Yes, it is. And you can do fact checks all you want, but the fact checks that I think matter are the ones that people watch and go, that's not right. Of how we've lived our lives, what they witnessed. Do you think that's going to matter? Did that bother anybody tonight with Joe Biden?
I think, when he was trying, he has this idea with the COVID situation where he wants to push. It's funny because where Biden stood on every position if you know where Trump stands, because he disagreed with him every single time. So when Trump was saying we're going to close down flights from China, of course, it was xenophobic at that moment for Biden to do that. It's just a matter of this is the constant opposition. And I think people do remember those things. Look, Biden was out there saying that we were just hating the Chinese for a very long time at that point. I don't know if any of that's going to, those moments where it's obvious to the average person are the most effective ones. People are not going to go back and check your farm bill stats. Nope. That's not what happens. The media likes to toss those things around afterward. It's more about what hits people the wrong way. Trump had a pretty effective part where he was talking about shutting down the economy. I thought that was maybe one of his best answers of the night, where he really laid that out in a way.
And I think that's important.
Really
if
important.
People got that far. I thought there was something else with COVID. Did anybody else feel that Donald Trump? Now a lot of it was just chaos. Yeah. But there were a few times where I went, "That's presidential. That's not the Donald Trump I saw 4 years ago." For instance, the COVID part, where he was talking about here are the stats and the companies, and he knew them all. You could tell he had been truly engaged in that and knew what he was talking about, which I hadn't. You don't see with Donald Trump very often, and I think that made a huge, to me. If I was just somebody that didn't know what was really going on, what he said, I believed. What Joe Biden said was kind of like, well, I don't even understand that.
If I were on the Trump debate team and you guys weren't around and we were talking privately, what I would be stressing is the opportunity costs that were missed tonight. He let Biden get away with hammering him on pre-existing conditions when he actually just issued an executive order that, frankly, a lot of conservatives like myself are not in favor of, telling you that you have to cover pre-existing conditions. What happened at the end of the debate with white supremacy, when he just issued an executive order less than a week ago.
That was the worst.
He just issued an executive order less than a week ago, declaring the KKK a domestic terrorist group.
Do we happen to have that cut where he was talking? Because I don't even know what he said.
The white supremacist?
The white supremacist cut.
We did have a little glitch in the feed around that time, but at least that's what I thought. Maybe he just
And listen, if you had the Proud Boys getting mentioned in tonight's presidential debate bingo, dude, you're the 1 in a million winner. I didn't think that was ever possible, but it occurred.
You know, we were complaining a little bit about Chris Wallace, and I thought you got what I expected out of Chris Wallace, which he did ask a couple, a couple of good questions, a lot of bad questions. He was, on the wrong side of a lot of that stuff. But the worst moment of the entire thing from Wallace to me was when you're trying to get Donald Trump to denounce white supremacists for the 9,000th time. And now, why Donald Trump just didn't do it, I have no idea. But he has done it 100 times in the past. We've heard him all say it 100 times. Joe Biden has denounced Antifa 0 times. He has never been asked about it. The fact that you would ask Donald Trump to do something he's already done multiple times and not ask Joe Biden to say, hey, Antifa, how about the elements of Black Lives Matter that are advocating for the destruction of the nuclear family? Will you denounce those things?
And it's strange
never
because
any responsibility.
He knows that. I've heard him speak off the cuff about that. He knows that. And
you were trying to say Trump knows that.
Trump knows that.
Criticizing Wallace on it, but you're right. Trump needs to bring that up.
Trump should have just said at that point, wait a minute, Antifa, they peaceful or not? Do you approve of them or not? Black Lives Matter, the actual organization that wants to destroy the family, you approve or not?
Yeah, how about that?
If he would have stood and said, no, Chris, I want those 2 questions, that's a reason to cause chaos and stop the debate.
Chris, America wants to know the answers to those 2 questions. I think what each of these candidates did is not make this process accessible to people who were honestly trying and earnestly trying to make up their minds. They made it about totally themselves.
The other thing that was really egregious was that Trump and Chris Wallace let Biden get away with not answering the will you pack the court question.
Yes.
He should have been forced to answer that question. You're running for president of the United States.
We're supposed to be
voting.
voting.
Get away with saying that's going to make it the issue or not the issue. What are you talking about?
You don't get to define that. Answer the damn question.
Right. We'll decide what's important.
Oh, thank you.
That's cut 3. Play that, please.
Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
I'm not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second
How did they
segment.
bail out?
All he should say there is yes or no, sir. It's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. And he should have honestly done that with Donald Trump on the KKK. It's yes or no. Are you for the KKK or do you denounce them? Of course I denounce them.
And he's done it a million times.
I don't know why he hesitated there, but he did. He has done that a million times. We've all heard him say it.
Think about the questions here we're talking about that people didn't get answers to. How many justices on the Supreme Court does one of the presidential nominees think we should have? Is white supremacy bad? Will you cover my pre-existing conditions? But everyone did find out how much money Hunter Biden made for Burisma.
Right.
And I think this goes to something that, we were talking about this morning on your show. There is a disconnect, and I say this working in conservative media, and I'm totally fine if Hunter Biden is guilty of everything that people are accusing him of. We could put him in the basement of Sing Sing, and we can never hear him sing for the rest of his days. I'm totally okay with that. But that's a criminal prosecution, not a presidential election. If I'm sitting there wondering, is my kid going to be able to stay in school if there's 4 positive tests next week? And if he gets sent home, do I have to lose my job?
Agree.
All right, the things that people care about didn't get addressed. The things that the most fanatical elements of each of our partisan medias get their jollies off of all got addressed.
Well,
but the stuff people care about never got addressed.
Okay, so I would disagree somewhat.
Okay.
In the fact that this goes to how many Supreme Court justices. Is there a deep state? is there justice in America? You prosecuted and persecuted me. Today we find out that was hoax. And you knew it, and Brennan knew it, everybody knew it, Comey knew it. We've got the documents. They came out today. So I got to know, you were the guy in the office that said it. Your son took $3 million from the mayor of Moscow. When are we going to have a conversation about that, Joe?
But see,
that's worth one question.
I think there's a way you have to frame that, though, in a way that makes voters care.
Yeah.
Are you guys, if I beat you guys again, are you going to try to do another coup against the 60+ million people that voted for me, like you did for me 4 years ago? See, there's difference. People want elections to be about them, not about the candidates.
Right.
And both these guys made it about themselves and not about the people that are actually watching.
So here's something that I think he tried to say, and he tried to cover that, but it wasn't. He didn't do it well. When he said there is no peaceful transition of power. He's right. You know, that means what you're saying now is not a peaceful, and that is something everybody wants to know. Are you going to abide by the rules? And the answer to that, if you would have said that, will you accept the election? If everyone abides by the rules that we all know, sure I am. If somebody's breaking the rules, no.
Can I go back to the packing the court question real quickly? Because it was not just packing the court, it was also the filibuster, right? And here's Joe Biden, who's in the Senate for 127 years, a guy who was supposed to be
185 by his own admission.
I'm sorry. It's supposed to be a guy who cares about the Senate rules, right? This was his blood, right? He lived and died in the Senate. And he goes through this, and his answer to both of those questions, packing the court and getting rid of the filibuster, was, I don't want to answer that because whatever I say is going to become the issue. Well, it doesn't become an issue if you say you're not going to do it.
There you go.
Right? Yep. So that was an answer. He is going to do it. The American people should know that. And if there is one journalist left in America, they've got to get him to answer that question.
There's not.
It's completely...
Narrator, there's not one journalist left in America.
There's not. Let me go to Allie Stuckey, who was watching this. Were you at home watching this, Allie?
Yes, my husband and I were at home watching this. Well, some of it we were actually watching. Some of the time we had to divert our eyes out of second gear.
So tell me how it played to you and how you think it's going to play to millennials and to women.
My frustration at the beginning of this, I was talking to a lot of my friends who consider themselves conservative, but mostly apolitical. I was talking to the women who follow me on Instagram. Our first frustration was with Trump, that he seemed to not let Biden dig his own grave, and his consistent insistence upon the bullying tactics. I didn't like that. But as the debate went on, my frustration grew with Chris Wallace and it becoming this 2-on-1 debate to where Biden was never held against the wall for the things that we are actually concerned with. I wanted to know his stance on the police and BLM and critical race theory and law and order. I wanted to know his plan for the suburbs. I wanted to know if he's going to be soft on China. And I didn't get the answer to any of those things.
Did you have a problem with Chris Wallace saying that these were civil rights education classes when indeed they were classes on critical race theory, which is completely different?
Right. He said, what's wrong with racial sensitivity training?
Right.
Well, critical race theory is not racial sensitivity training. I thought Trump did really well in this, that this is a lesson to hate America. And that's absolutely right. Chris Wallace has a lot to learn in this area. He probably didn't even realize how much he showed his bias. But yeah, I did have a problem with it. It showed ignorance and obviously just an antipathy towards the conservative stance on critical race theory.
Do millennials even watch this?
Well, my millennial friends did. I can't speak for all millennials, but millennials are getting up there now. We're in our 30s and some of them are starting to get in their 40s. And so we've got kids, we've got mortgages. We have to care about this kind of stuff.
And do you think it changed anybody's mind?
It depends on if they watched the whole debate. I think if people in the middle trying to decide who really care more about personality and individuals than they do care about politics or policies and platforms, which is wrong, but some people do, if they just watch the 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes of the debate, I think they go against Trump because they don't like his personality. But the whole debate, I actually think that Trump ended up faring a little bit better.
Do you think that Joe Biden looked like he was starting to be like my grandfather when he was towards the end? I mean, it was sad. I thought he started winded and he
Yeah.
He just didn't look like the Joe Biden even of the last primary. I said to Stu halfway through, if this is how much he's lost in the last, 9 months, what is he going to be like 4 years down the road? I mean, it's just not even, I can't even comprehend that he would be the president in 4 years based on the rapid growth or rapid decline. Did that come across to you at all or not?
Yeah, it did. And I think it would have come across more if he had been allowed to speak, because what we saw is that he can't speak for longer than about, I would say, 5 to 7 seconds without losing his train of thought and Chris Wallace having to step in and remind him what he was talking about. This is true when he is in interviews as well. But Trump, being who he is, and maybe some people think that this demonstrated strength somehow, I didn't, he would insert himself into Biden's response when it would have been a lot better for us to see that weakness on display and for Biden to dig his own grave by wandering off into these trails and talking about nothing. So yes, I did see that weakness. I saw that cognitive decline. I think Trump distracted from that a little bit by being so bombastic. I wish we would have seen more of that from Biden.
Let me play a couple of clips, and I'd like to get your thoughts first. I'm going to play 3 clips, get your thoughts first, and then go to the table as well. Let me play cut 13, cut 14, and then cut 6.
You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey, let me just say to you.
No.
Okay, first the clown. Next clip.
That's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
It didn't take them.
Well,
Vice President, no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He stood up.
No,
He stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With
Wait, not
Stop.
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
true.
Gentlemen.
Flashbacks.
So I don't know if we even got there, but that's when Joe Biden said, just shut up, man. And then the last clip here, Donald Trump turning the tables and doing a bit of his own.
He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Let's have.
Okay. Allie, he was called a clown. He was told to shut up. That you would have never done that with any president before. Now the left does it regularly. Does it matter anymore?
You know, I've always said you can't out-Trump Trump. Trump is like Teflon. You can sling the mud at him and it will just slide right off. And when you see someone kind of going to the level that sometimes Trump goes to with those kind of ad hominem attacks and telling people to be quiet and all of that, it just makes you look weak. I mean, we saw that with Marco Rubio in 2016. It didn't work for him. I don't think it's going to work for Joe Biden either. I just think it kind of looks embarrassing. Trump, somehow in his persona, he can kind of pull that off, whether people like it or not. I don't think Joe Biden can. Like you said, it comes across as very slow and very weak and very reaching. I just don't think it's an effective strategy for him.
Steve, do you agree with that? Because
wholeheartedly.
Really? I mean, it felt weird when Marco Rubio did it. It just felt like Joe Lunchbox.
I think that there were times that Biden had very effective counterattacks where he seemed like more of the adult in the room. But I think he diminished his own argument, dropping, you know, you're a racist, you're a clown. I mean, are you running for president of the United States, or do you want to take over the Young Turks? Make a decision. You won't be able to do both. And I think that they believe that the answer to defeating him is to get down and into the mud and the muck and the mire with him. You actually need to come over the top as the adult in the room. And I think those were strategic errors on Biden's part that took away opportunities he had to maybe have more of a legitimate or clear victory tonight.
Allie, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate your perspective tonight. Anybody else on this topic before I move on?
I mean, look, if the opponent is Donald Trump, it's hard to get too upset at someone using the word clown. I mean, Donald Trump does things like this
Right.
all the time. I don't think it helps Joe Biden, though. I think you're totally right on that.
And that's what they'll say about it. They'll say that he doesn't deserve any respect because he gives nobody else any respect. And so that's what's going to come of that. Nothing.
That's what they think on the Today Show or on MSNBC. But I don't think that a lot of suburbanites think that way. And I think that they were actually looking to Joe Biden to get beyond this stuff, not to indulge more of it.
Right.
And so I think he disappointed a lot of people that came into this potentially looking for something positive out of him by allowing himself to get relegated into these back and forths.
I want to get into the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter stuff. Dave Rubin's going to be joining us in a few minutes, but let me play cut 15. This is Trump. This is Biden saying that Trump has been disastrous for blacks. Listen to this.
This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
How's that going to play in the African American community?
I hope not well. I think hopefully it'll play like if you don't vote for me, you ain't black played in the African American community.
So really well.
You know, and it would have been great if Trump would have come back at him with, I'm sorry, how many blacks have been aborted since 1973? Let me give you that number. It's 16 million. I do care about the blacks being alive. I do care about black lives. Apparently, Democrats don't. You certainly don't, Joe. Because 80% of Planned Parenthood abortion clinics are located in minority areas. I mean, there's such an opening there.
So was this, but did he take any advantage of that? Here's Trump's response, cut 16.
You have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that.
He goes on to talk about the crime bill, et cetera, et cetera. Is that enough?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I guess Republicans are supposed to be against the crime bill now while we're running a law and order.
I happen to think, maybe I'm alone, I think it's the last piece of really good bipartisan legislation, frankly, in my lifetime.
So there's a lot of good in that.
Maybe I'm an idiot, but
and
I'm a conservative.
From the black perspective.
Yeah.
From the black perspective.
Yeah. I mean, the super predator thing, I remember being Hillary Clinton. Did she do this as well? She did the super predator thing,
they were all doing it.
They were all doing it. Everyone was calling it. I mean, look, I think Trump is using what he has, right? This is a controversial thing. The black community doesn't seem to like that bill all that much. It's been something the left has been beating up on the right for a very long time, and I've lost track at where we're supposed to be on this thing. I mean, to me, it looks like a pretty good piece of legislation with some things that have been tweaked over the years that could have fixed it. But I don't think that helps. I think a better case is what Pat said. I think a better case is his economic record with African Americans. You're looking at these historic low unemployment rates, which Trump says really at every opportunity he has. Usually, I don't know why he didn't really get into that as much.
That's another opportunity cost. To me, that's the theme of the night. If you're pro-Trump, I mean, a far better line of attack is to say, Joe, while you were presiding over the funeral of the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, Robert Byrd, that you referred to at that funeral while you were vice president as a friend, a guide, and a mentor. While you were doing that, I was cleaning up your mess, and we had the best and the lowest black unemployment rate since they started keeping the stat. I'm not going to be lectured to about racism from somebody that did funerals and eulogies for racist. Thank you. I yield the balance of my time.
Yeah. He's incapable of doing that, however. All right. If you're watching us now on YouTube, the Blaze is a place to go for really the best conservative thought, and it's all over the spectrum. We've had Allie Stuckey on, Candace Owens, if you are a subscriber, you'll hear Candace Owens' opinion on the debate. You'll hear Steven Crowder and all of his opinions, and also people who used to be on the left but have found Jesus. And probably the biggest person to make that change was Dave Rubin. He's a member of the Blaze team as well. He's out in Los Angeles. Dave, thank you for joining us. Your thoughts generally on the debate?
Well, first off, it's good to be with you guys. That almost sounded like you had to issue a trigger warning before you introed me.
No, not at all. I think the audience loves you. Loves you.
You brought it around nicely. Well, I think the main takeaway, and I suspect that you guys might have hit on this, I was doing a live stream on my channel, which is why I'm joining a little late, is that Biden did not implode. And the expectations, I think, were so low for him. You know, there are so many clips of him losing his train of thought, not knowing what he's saying, screwing up numbers, flat out lying, and the rest of it. And he didn't really have a terrible moment. I think Trump kind of went in hot, where he was really going after him, trying to knock him off his pedestal, and it never fully happened. That being said, you know, the real issue here is that Biden knows, because of the cover that the media is going to run on him and run for him, that he can pretty much lie about anything and get away with it in a way that Trump can't. So, you know, when Biden said the reason I got into this campaign was because of the very fine people line in Charlottesville, it's like that line is a lie. It's an absolute lie that I'm sure your viewers know, and I'm sure you guys have talked about, where right before Trump said there were very fine people on both sides, and what he meant was very fine people of both sides of the debate argument, of the monument argument, that the point is, he said, I absolutely condemn the KKK and the white supremacists and the rest of it. So Biden knows he can get away with lies. I think Trump's worst moment, though, was partially because they were all talking at once, but when Wallace asked him to condemn white supremacy, even though he's done this a million times.
Last week.
He got flummoxed, and it was almost because there was a lot of crosstalk, but he needed to put that down. He started saying it and then he stopped. And I think that was really a bad moment. So I don't think there was really any clear-cut winner here. And as I said on my live stream, it's like, it's not whether the partisans think that their guy won. That's not what matters, because those people know what they're voting for and who they're voting for. It's whether whatever that slice in the middle, and it's hard to figure out how many people that actually encapsulates. It's like, did anyone watch this and say, okay, I was truly moved to one of them? And I don't think we got that tonight.
So do you think that Biden did enough to hold his coalition together on the left? Will the left be upset with him at all, or did you see any movement on the left?
Yeah, well, look, Biden said he wasn't for the Green New Deal, so now we got AOC's obviously going to be pissed at him. He did kind of say he's for law and order. Trump was really trying to hit him on that. So, you know, he did try to do what all candidates do, whether you're on the left or on the right. Once you get through the primary, then you usually moderate back into something that feels a little saner. I think the problem is, and I know, Glenn, I was listening to you earlier today, you've been talking about this for a while. The problem is that the base is so crazy at the moment that it's like, can Biden be the one that stops that radical energy? I think the answer to that is absolutely no. He did not falter tonight. And I don't think he did anything that the base is going to absolutely try to take him out. But at the same time, Trump didn't have a real knockout moment. And I think a lot of the real Trump people and people on the right thought, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. And that's the problem when you go in thinking, oh, we're going to win this thing for sure. If you don't win, it kind of feels like almost like you lost.
Let me play cut 18. Listen to this. This is Biden and Trump sparring over Antifa. Watch.
Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not malicious. That's what his FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
That's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration tells you the truth is a bad. You have no idea.
Is there anybody? Is there any winner on that one, Dave?
Gentlemen,
yeah.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden.
You stop the nonsense. Go ahead.
So that was a good moment for Trump, because anyone that has a flicker of a free thought in their head, they know what's going on in the streets of Portland and New York City and Seattle and Minneapolis and the rest of it. And it's Antifa violence. They're not telling you it's not them. They're telling you it is them, and that they are a radical Marxist organization, and that they're here basically to take down the patriarchy and end capitalism and the rest of it. I've done a ton of college speaking events that Antifa shows up and protests violently and calls fire alarms and the rest of it. So that's not an idea. If it was an idea, I would go to an event and speak freely, and I'd go, oh, well, there are these people called Antifa and they don't like me. But no, I've seen real violence. So what the real question, though, is why is Biden so trigger happy, basically, to say that they're not an organization? And that gets to the fact that the base is radical. So I think the average person, when they see things burn and then they can associate that with Antifa, I think that was a winning moment for Trump. And I think the critical race theory thing was a winning moment for Trump also.
I think the other piece of that was the Portland, when he asked, "Why have you called them? Have you called the mayor? Have you called the governor?"
That was a good question from Wallace, I thought.
Yeah, and when he said that the only trouble comes is when they do come in, that's complete hogwash, and I think everybody felt that. Any minds changed, Dave? Any last thoughts?
I don't think, as I said before, whoever that sliver is, and we just don't know what that number of people is, it's hard to imagine that anyone watched tonight and really said, wow, Trump just wowed me, or Biden wowed me. I don't think anyone was really moved, but look, that's why they do 3 debates. That's why we do a vice presidential debate. That's why we got 5 weeks left on this thing. I think they'll both go back in, and I think Trump's people will say, maybe it's better to just calm down a little bit. You don't have to be so aggressive. And Biden's people, I think the fact that he didn't implode, I think they're going to be pretty pleased with that. But he will have to go in and talk to the radicals and basically be like, Bernie, did I give you enough there? Because he can't lose that base. And as you said this morning, it's like, if he's the Trojan horse, he owes these guys, and that's what he has to watch out for.
Dave Rubin, thank you very much. If you want to see Dave, you can check him out on the Blaze. Just use the promo code DEBATE, and you'll be able to get him on demand. And of course, at all the other places where Dave Rubin is available, he's like McDonald's.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's like McDonald's. Thanks a lot, Dave Rubin. I appreciate it. Okay. To close up, I guess we look to the future. I don't have that pit in my stomach that I had all day because it's over. But my fear was that it would be over tonight. I don't think anything happened that is going to change anybody's mind. I think if we had real journalists, they might be able to find some things in here that Joe Biden said that were not accurate. And would lead you to understand he is the radical that he is, but we don't really have great journalists anymore, except, I hope, the people that work at the Blaze that classify themselves as journalists. We are all talking heads and not journalists. Join us at the Blaze. We have the next debate is next Wednesday, and it's a vice presidential debate, which will be very interesting. Mike Pence will take on Kamala Harris, and Mike is really, really good. Your thoughts on that pairing?
Electric.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike Pence will have a very forlorn look on his face a lot. And Kamala Harris will say or do whatever advances Kamala Harris. I mean, she's amoeba-like.
I mean, Mike Pence was a talk show host. He knows how to communicate with people. I think, at one point he was really good at doing that. And then he just kind of went away. He sort of disappeared. And then came back on the scene, of course, recently. But there was a time when he was really good at this stuff. He might surprise us.
Right now, he needs to be less of politician.
Yep.
Every time I see Mike Pence, he is a very schooled politician.
Yeah.
And that's not what people want right now.
He'll do fine. I mean, he'll bore people to death a little bit, but he'll do fine in this. You know, this election will not turn on the vice presidential debate. No. It will have. I don't think it can have a very large impact, but I do think Pence will do well. He'll hold his own. He won't get knocked around by Harris. I think he'll do a pretty good job. There's just only so much this matters.
Does it mean anything of real substance that no one is going to be talking about the Hillary Clinton thing tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think.
What's it mean?
I mean, I think it is. It's interesting because it was released when it coming out into the news cycle today. You'd think these things, just like the New York Times tax report, right? It's designed to become part of the debate, right? And it didn't. So it's hard to imagine that it's going to have a big impact as of tomorrow. I mean,
Thank goodness Trump's taxes did, though.
Yeah,
I'm glad they sneaked that right on in.
Yeah, that was the
Another
first
thing people don't care about.
Yeah.
You know, he is president. He has an attorney general, Department of Justice. You want to move this story along? Call Hillary Clinton in front of a federal grand jury.
Yeah.
That'll move the story along. We'll cover it then.
Sure would. There would be some coverage on that, yeah.
Okay. We'll be back early tomorrow. Pat starts, 6 a.m. Central Time, 7 a.m. Eastern. We're back at 9 Eastern. You're at 12 Eastern, so enjoy your rest. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining the Blaze. If you want to subscribe, you'll hear Mark Levin's opinion on what happened on demand and live. You'll hear it at Blaze TV. Just join us. Use the promo code DEBATE.
The mainstream media giants are dying. For too long, they believed they could get away with anything. Fake news, puff pieces, outright lies. But let's get real. Their old school BS is, well, old. We are Blaze TV, the only media platform committed to the stories, issues, and topics that matter to you.
Cut the police. Oh, that's genius. Cut the police.
The right to bear arms. The left doesn't believe in that at all, but they believe in free internet for all.
These people want to control your health care.
Blaze TV has the biggest collection of conservative voices you'll find anywhere.
It is unashamedly conservative constitutionalists.
And we're not beholden to anyone or anything except the truth. So rest in peace, mainstream media. Your time is up. Try Blaze TV for free right now at blazetv.com.
Before we get to the rest, we want to thank our sponsor, Rough Greens. The dogs have spoken. Well, not literally, but it's pretty evident by the way they eat their food when it's got Rough Greens on it. They're a happy, happy bunch. So if you're a dog owner, you know that loving your dog, it's only part of the responsibilities you have as their owner. You also have to take good care of your dog, make sure that you do everything you can to promote a healthy, happy life for him. And that is why I love Rough Greens. Rough Greens isn't a dog food, it's a